longest night of the year, how starkly, sparkly, darkly. Oh, longest night of the year, oh, longest night of the year, how starkly, sparkly, darkly. How short the day from dawn to dusk, how short the day from dawn to dusk.
Oh, longest night of the year, oh, longest night of the year, how starkly, sparkly, darkly. Finally! Senor Soul sure likes to hide out in dark corners of the attic, don't you, you naughty old Incan sun god but made in China ornament?
I'll leave the poor fellow alone, just 'cause you have a thing about how everything's made in China.
Well, everything is made in China.
Yeah, but he can't help it, can he? And the fact that you stick him in a box right after the winter solstice and then forget every year where you stashed him, give him to me. Oh, poor little guy. Take a look at where you're going to be hanging out this year. Not too shabby, eh? Sarait. I got the lights and the pomegranates on the tree, but let's get the rest of the decorations on here, 'kay?
I love the red of the pomegranates. Great way to celebrate the Persian festival of Yalda.
Oh, yeah. Remember that dip you used to make with pomegranate juice and navy beans?
I remembered it disappeared in record time at Mavis Bird's pre-migration party last month.
Heaven. With just the right amount of garlic, uplifting and piquant without being overbearing. Oh, man. Now you got me thinking about food.
Oh, here is the Kachina doll we got in Santa Fe at the Opera Festival. The Marriage of Figaro, La Boheme, Mozart, Puccini.
Oh, bravissimo! All that screeching and honking and fainting and prancing. You're lucky the food was so good. Tacos and enchiladas, burritos and flan. Oh, creamy, caramelly flan. Sheesh, all of those rituals seem to keep coming back to food.
Glorious food. Funny how so many of these different festivals and rituals revolve around our stomachs.
The corn beer of the Incas, dried fruit from the Roman festival of Saturnalia, cakes and mulled wine, and okay, enough. No more food talk or I'm gonna eat these plaster pomegranates.
We'll finish with the solstice tree and then we'll have goodies. Deal?
Okay, but let's hurry.
Ouch!
Ouch!
Ugh!
That calcium carbonate head of yours.
Sorry. After you.
The Yule log for warmth and light. Oh, thanks for helping.
No problem. There.
There we
Looks
go.
perfect
We
there.
managed it. Yay.
My turn. Here we go.
Okay. A pig?
For the Inca celebration of Inti Raymi. It was believed that to help with the celebrations, sacrifices of animals and, some speculate, even children were offered to the gods. I can't imagine that you wanted me to hang a small child on the tree.
Well.
I thought not. Now, the crowning moment of the pig first. Let me put him on. There he is. Beauty.
There we go. There we go. Our
Now.
solstice tree.
The crowning moment. Senor Soul.
Okay, let me help.
Yes.
Let me help. It's really
Thank
tall.
you.
Climb
Oh,
gently.
almost.
Don't hurt yourself.
Perfect.
Voila.
Yes. Thank you. And now, you may do the honors, Charlie.
With pleasure. Ta-da!
My, but isn't it a beauty?
Best ever. Now, how about these snacks?
Hadn't you forgotten, Charlie? This evening, we have been entrusted to introduce this, our final Hear and Be Heard.
10 community conversations. Brought to you by the Red Deer Public Library.
And the Red Deer Puppetry Collective.
Yay!
Yeah! And if you have not yet guessed, this evening we are exploring the idea of rites and rituals.
Traditions and tractors.
Tractors?
Well, you said 2 words that started with R, and that was cool. So I said 2 words that started with a T. And And tractor pulls are a tradition, okay, Mr. Dusty Smarty Smock?
Okay, John dear, settle down. I'm sorry. I'm sure tractor pulls are a thing. Somewhere.
And don't you forget it, Thub.
I did apologize for what it's worth.
Yeah, well...
Can I get on with it, please?
Yeah, go on then.
This is our final conversation, dear friends, and we do hope that you've enjoyed our collective ramblings over the past year.
We've covered a lot of things from racism and love to Indigenous issues and diversity.
We hope we've given you something interesting and entertaining to think about during these dreadful, dreadful times.
And we want to thank Ms. Tilly at the library for all of her assistance and support and for believing in a small puppetry collective when no one else would. When the deck was stacked against us. When...
All right. No need to get blubbery about it.
That'll do, Chucky, that'll do. And so with no further ado, come on, Chucky, pull it together.
Sorry. Sorry.
You want to dissolve yourself? Come on.
How mortifying. Apologies. We are now going to turn this over to our dear friend, Mr. Moderator, who is this very minute waiting in Zoom land with all of our special guests. We were told not to tell you who they are, but you're going to love them. Promise.
We're so glad we had this time together.
Just to have a laugh or sing a song.
Seems we just get started.
And before you know it,
comes the time we have to say so long.
Goodbye, everybody, and happy holidays.
Arrivederci. Now, how about we get some of those snacks and let's sit by the tree, hey, Chucky Chuck?
Best idea you've had all year, Charlie Cheese.
Hi, everybody. Matt Gould here. And Chucky and Charlie just sent us over to get over and have a conversation. So here we are for our last one. And as usual, I'm going to start this evening's, I'm going to say performance, but conversation with our land acknowledgement. The Red Deer Public Library and the Red Deer Puppetry Collective acknowledge that we all live and work and play on Treaty 6, which is north of the Waskesiu Seepee, which is the Red Deer River, on the traditional lands of the Métis, Saulteaux, and Nehiyawak peoples, and Treaty 7 lands, which is south of the Waskesiu Seepee, the traditional lands of the Blackfoot, Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina peoples. On this ancient land, we strive to honor and transform our relationships to one another. So thanks for hanging in there and joining us for our last evening and our last program here for 10 community conversations here in Be Heard. And as I said before, and as the puppet said, and you've heard all along, I'm Matt Gould, and I'm glad to have you here. So as Chucky and Charlie just said in that little movie you saw, we're going to take a look at rituals and rites and traditions, and not those just around the world at this time of the year, the winter solstice, but we might look at ones that mark our lives as human beings as we crawl from the cradle to the grave. And we ask ourselves, so why are they important? And how have religious rituals been modified or lost in a more secular kind of a world? And are we lost and adrift without the ritual, spiritual underpinnings of these rites? So a little bit to cover tonight on this wonderful winter solstice evening. And as you can see, all of our guests tonight, we all have our little avatar puppets because, of course, you guessed it, we're all members of the Red Deer Puppetry Collective. So I'm going to introduce each of us as we go along in a moment. And we'll get right at it. So we've got, as I said, an invitation that was open to the Red Deer Puppetry Collective, and there they are, all waving now. And we have the Queen of Red Deer Public Library, Tatiana Tilley, who organized it all, and she's joined us this evening to give her wisdom and insights. Yay!
Yay!
Great. Okay, so I'm going to go alphabetically as I make my introductions. And as I make my introductions, so we'll start with Ash. And Ash is one of the original members of the Red Deer Puppetry Collective, has done some writing with us and done some lots and lots of acting. And she is the body of our dear friend, Chucky Chalk. So welcome, Ash, as I look down at you.
Thank you.
Now, can you tell me, do you have any special, say, personal rites or rituals in your own life? Any kind of must-dos that you can talk about as we get into the subject? So take it away, Ash.
Like in general or just for the holidays?
You know what? We'll start with in general, because I think near the end of the conversation, we'll wrap it up with ideas around the holidays. So if you've got any kind of rituals that mean something to you in your life, whatever it is, you go ahead.
Well, with the pandemic, I started an Animal Crossing is a video game on the Nintendo Switch, and it basically came out like right when the pandemic started. And so I kind of like just play that every day, and it's like a little ritual I have. It's more like a habit now, unfortunately, but where I just like get to chill and just like play this calming video game, and I don't have to do anything or be anything for anyone. I just get to be with myself.
So I was going to ask you, what role do you think that ritual plays for you? And I think you kind of answered it at the end, but is there something that's really specific? I mean, you're obviously a gamer and you like games and things. So what is it about maybe this particular game and how it's ritualized? Do you like a smoker sit down and play it when you have the urge, or is there a kind of the time of the day when you do it?
No, I just whenever I like have I know that I have like a free hour or so, I'll sit down and just play it. And like I have so many other video games to play that I haven't played yet, which is like nice that Christmas holidays are on now, because maybe I'll catch up on the backlog a little bit. But like I just find myself just always turning that one on, because it's a game that's like in real time. So if it's 6 p.m. here, it's 6 p.m. in my game. So like it's a 20. Yeah. So it's just, I just go around and craft the little things, like set up my island with all of its Christmas decorations. Like I got a little Christmas tree the other day from Suzanne, who's not here, but so that was cool, because I didn't have any Christmas ornaments either. So I just literally hung like Japanese keychains and things that I just had around and just stuck them in there, like some Lindor balls. I was like, oh, I stuck them in the tree. So yeah, it's just a nice way to like turn myself off from the world. And I just go into this virtual world where like all the little animals love me. They're like, you're my best friend. I'm like, I love you too. Oh my God. It's like having a pet, but I don't have to clean up the poop and the animals talk to me. So
it's like a cleansing, a kind of a calming meditative ritual sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Where I suppose I could do yoga and that would be more beneficial for me, but this is what I do right now. So
cool. Thanks. Dan Vasquez.
Hello.
Another one of the original members of the troupe, and that's his lovely avatar right beside him. So Daniel, you are the wonderful, versatile, terrific voice of Chucky Chalk, our kind of slightly dry, superior sort of little puppet. And if you were to say that you had some kind of a personal rite or a ritual in your life, what might that be?
A ritual that comes to mind right away is whenever I get to travel somewhere, and the ritual of packing the bag to go with me, because then I can like look at every individual item and think hard about, do I need this? How am I going to use it? Is it taking up space? Is it going to be heavy? And then with the whole backpack while you're traveling, it's still like a place to like, you can still, it's like a touchstone to get home for a bit. It's like you still got your stuff in there if anything happens. And then when I get back, the ritual of just like throwing it somewhere in a corner and just forgetting about it and not wanting to unpack all the little trinkets I got in there, because then I got to put them somewhere.
So do you find that it's it kind of becomes both this, I'm not going to say meditative, but this sort of exciting preparation for this transition, right, from one place to the next? And then, as you say, when you're carrying it, it remains like a touchstone and a reminder of home.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's great. So it's kind of a thread, like a connecting thread. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I like that. And I find it fascinating when you say you have the trinkets and you keep them packed up and then you don't unpack them. Like, what's up with that?
Then I got to put them somewhere and then I got to look at it later. And it's good. I get to look at it. Then I move and I'm like, do I still need this thing? And then I put it somewhere else. And then it accumulates. Oh, okay. But I always find a spot for them. There's somewhere. There's one.
Nice. Good. Okay, let's jump to Maya. So Maya is the person in the Puppetry Collective that I've known the longest. We met in 2005 when she was just a little tiny, fantastic singer in Beauty and the Beast when I was directing it for Treehouse Youth Theater. So we've known each other for a fair length of time, eh? And it's kind of exciting, this whole growing up business, which I think is terrific. So, maybe not then. Okay, sorry, Maya. I'm at an age where I'm saying, I don't mind. So the question I have for you, so in the Puppetry Collective, Maya has jumped on board and helped do the manipulation, the physical work for Cheese for a couple of them. But she was also the very famous operatic voice of Mavis Bird, the character that we had that flew in and sang like an angel. So Maya, if you thought about any kind of a ritual that you have, like a personal one or whatever, why don't you share it with us?
Yeah, every day I go for a walk because I have a lot of energy. Hello, Suzanne.
Hey, Suzanne. So Suzanne, before we jump in with you, we're just going around the table, introductions, and then talking about personal rituals.
Okay.
And you're next up, and then we finish with Tatiana. So we're on with Maya, so we'll go ahead with Maya. Go ahead, Maya.
Yeah, I love nature, and I have a lot of anxious energy, I would say, / a fair amount of depression. So I have found that this ritual is something that lifts and expels both of these in my life, and it's so simple, so accessible. I particularly love to go out at night. I'm a super night owl. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it.
No, but I think that's great because the Japanese are big masters of the thing called forest bathing, right? And they have tours where people go into the forest and spend hours, 3 hours, like in a day or whatever it is, what they're doing on these guided tours and lying around on the logs and the trees. And of course, we know that nature, getting out there, is a calming, releasing kind of thing, and it becomes meditative and clearing. The other side of it is, of course, when we're talking about rituals and traditions, well, we all come from ancient places where we're all in nature and in the country, and we connect to that earth. And now most of us live in cities, right? So we are, I think, sadly disconnected to the natural world and find ourselves, we'll say, well, I want to go outside. And you'll say, oh, it's raining, so I don't go out. And I say, well, wait a sec. Even if it's a natural phenomenon, you sort of go, the rain, yuck. As opposed to saying, well, it's just a day of rain or whatever. So thanks for being brave enough and sharing us that, because that being outside in nature and getting that air is like great. And especially in these days of COVID, right? People are talking about the healthful benefits of getting out and walking and participating in the world and being in nature. So
I've seen a big shift in my life.
Oh, nice.
Just from implementing that one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I love that. So Suzanne Hermery, everybody knows her from the community. She's one of the wakers and the makers and the shakers and the bakers. Yay! So welcome. And Suzanne joined right at the beginning of the Red Deer Puppetry Collective. And she is the charming and lovely quixotic voice of Cheese. So,
Hello, yes.
So-
I feel like I look a little bit more like Carol Burnett in my avatar though. Puppet. She's the red hair. I mean, mine comes out of a box, but you know.
I think Carol Burnett's did too, by the way. I
Well,
don't think she was not naturally brassy of a
That-
redhead.
that is possibly true for sure.
So, yeah, any private rituals or personal rituals you have?
I find it very hard to go to sleep. So one of my rituals that I developed probably for about past 6-7 years is actually audiobooks. I'm a big audiobook fan now, and I borrow many of them from the Red Deer Public Library through my Libby app. I do have a Kobo account, but I try to stay away from those other guys. And so I put my headphones on. I set a timer for it to turn off after so many minutes, and I set a bookmark so that I remember to go back to where I started, because then I don't miss anything, even if I do fall asleep. And I have found that like it's a very rare day now where I actually still know what happened at the end of what I was reading at the end of the day. So it works for me to like clear my head. And it gets me through some different books. Like I'm a big like self-help reader, but also historical romance and dramas and stuff like that. I'm currently rereading Outlander so that I can read all of the other ones to get to the last new one.
It just came out.
I know. And I've bought it for an audiobook, but I am reading from the first book because I'm a good girl. But yeah, so that's one of my rituals. I find that I'm really pretty bad at regular rituals otherwise. So yeah, that's my biggest one that actually is sort of like self-care, because it makes sure that I actually do go to sleep too. So
You know what, it seems we're getting kind of a thread is this kind of meditative quality of the rituals. It's like each of us, Dan, even yours is, I mean, slightly different in the packing thing, but in a sense, there is kind of this private meditative self-healing kind of quality to all of the rituals that you've all talked about so far, right? That kind of give you a place of safety and something you can rest in somehow, which is, you know, exciting and well important for us, right? We have to have that area where we have that mental and emotional health. So Tatiana, let's go to you. So Tatiana, I've known since about 2006 or 7 when I was working with Art Sparks on the boards, another theater group that Maya was in. Yay! All those years ago. And so Tatiana and I've paired up for a few projects, and we thought, well, tonight for our last one, our final community conversation, she'd be great to join us and give her 2 cents worth on these ideas of rituals and things. So Tatiana, ta-da, over to you.
Thank you for including me in that conversation. I feel very honored, and it's been such a exciting journey through the year with different formats and adjustments and all those things. And you know what, it was one of my rituals every month to set up a meeting and go through all the details, right, and set things in motion. But as I have been listening to all of you, I just realized that personally I'm a person of a lot of routines. So like my life is pretty organized. It runs like a train because I have lots of routines. But routines is something that happens every day. I take my dogs for a walk every day and all those things, right? But to me, ritual is something that has some kind of magical quality to it. And so if we are talking about rituals in my life, then personally, I kind of really like to keep track of things in my life. And right now it's end of the year, so I already know that I biked for 1,612 kilometers this year because I've been tracking my biking time, which is a ritual to me because like I really like biking, and I bike April through October. And so my best month was July. And I had that little infographic with, you know, how many hours I did and all those things. Like I every morning, like every evening, I track my steps. So which because I changed phones, I logged the number of total steps for the whole year. But it just, I know that it's on average, it's 10,000 steps every day. And that's my ritual, just to keep it going. And I also keep track of how many books I read, because every year I set up a reading challenge for myself. And this year I was quite modest and I set my goal at 52 books, but I succeeded in meeting that challenge and even read more books. So I read 58 so far, and I have a pretty good sense that I'll probably round it up to 60 before the end of the year. Yeah, so that's my ritual. I kind of keep track of my life, and I try to find some, you know, numbers to it and kind of make I don't know, it gives me like really good idea where I am, how I'm doing, how can I be better next year, and I measure myself against myself. So like I kind of compare. I'm not gonna tell you how many books I read last year because it's gonna be less than this year, but you know what, it's okay. It's okay.
So,
like every
so
year
when what do you think drives this, I would say almost need to sort of categorize, calculate, collate? Does it keep you feeling grounded and sort of on a path that's sort of safe? Is it about control for you a little bit, do you think, and sort of say, I'm quantifying, I'm managing?
I think so. I think it helps me to focus on myself and keeping myself grounded, and and keeping my need to control things limited to myself.
So there's a bit of, you know,
and
again,
not to others.
Yeah. But it sounds a little bit like self-care.
Well, it is because,
right. In the same way everybody else has been talking about, we're saying, look, we're taking care of ourselves in these different ways. And now that we're asking to look at them and evaluate them and say, okay, is there a ritual involved in that? I kind of like there's sort of this desire for health and happiness. Everybody agree?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, good. Yay! So our next little thing I wanted to talk about was kind of the meaning of different rituals. So all of us are accustomed to, let's say, religious rituals. You know, we live in essentially a Christian dominated society still, and most of us come from that kind of a background in this group, I'm imagining. So there are a variety of different objectives, 4 or 5 objectives that religious ceremonies have, and we might look at them and then either have a brief conversation or we'll jump ahead, we'll see. So one of these objectives is communication. So it's a communication between the sacred and the profane. So when you're having a ritual, like speaking in tongues, it takes people from here to talking to their God and communicating that way. Now, there's one that we're sort of dealing with tonight because, of course, it's winter solstice. And there's another reconstitution kind of an aspect to religious traditions. And those are the ones that do the seasons and the cycles and the cosmic, such as Easter and Christmas and stuff, which, of course, were pagan to start with. And then were taken over by Christianity, right? There are celebrations and memorials. So remembering the good and bad and past experiences. There's cleansing. So we have the idea of the secular and the spiritual world coming together. So we clean our houses and we get rid of bad energy and we feel like we're improving our space and our surroundings. And there's protection. So funeral rites are a bit of a kind of a way to say, you're going to go and we've got this special rite, and then you're going to be sort of safe and guided through when you're deceased. And then initiation, which is the rite of passage. And I'd like to talk and ask a few questions about the rite of passage, because, so the question I want to throw to the group, first of all, is, in our more secular society, do you feel that we have some rites of passage still? And I'm going to talk about some particular rites of passage, and then also the idea around rites of passage. But I'd be curious to get a sense from you folks, just off the top of your heads, plural, all 12 of us or whatever we are, what you think might be rites of passage. So maybe just raise your hand or wiggle your hand, and then I'll call on you, and then we can. Daniel?
Well, currently, being able to eat at a restaurant, you need to be vaccinated, or to flight, or whatever else you have to do that is involved with the situation. And so in that sense, it could be considered a rite of passage that, all right, we can go there now.
Does that move you? And doesn't that also make you feel, at least I know, because when I go to the swimming pool, I have to show my proof of vaccination and stuff. And I feel in like this odd way, it's like I'm a member of this club.
Mm.
And even when I go to a restaurant or something and I show my vaccination and stuff, I say, well, everybody in the room is in the same boat. Yeah, so that's kind of a very particular point of passage, right? That's for these days. Yeah, good. Ash.
Yeah, I would say one of the big ones is like the graduation. So I went to school like out in the middle of nowhere, and we just had a high school like grade 12 graduation. I know prom or whatever is a thing in the States that we don't really have here, but now I hear kids get like a graduation after kindergarten now, and I was like, oh, that's not something I ever experienced. But like the graduation is a big deal now, because also like there's one for graduating from elementary school, and then there's one for graduating from middle school, and then there's the big one for graduating high school, and then there's obviously post-secondary school. So like just that, like I feel like there's like, as humans, we have to have some sort of like celebration for your rite of passage into like more not necessarily educate. I don't know if it's supposed to be for education or if it's supposed to be something like for getting older. I don't know, like even a birthday, I guess, is a rite of passage if you make a cake and do a ritual for that day. And
well, yeah, you're right about that though, the idea of graduation, because one of the things we'll talk about, I mean, specifically is what graduation does, but you're right about that sense of it being a marker, definitely, and we use it. Suzanne?
Learning to drive and getting your driver's license. That is a big one. And it's like the goal of every teenager, but it's also like, it's a huge jump in the responsibility level, because now you have this like walking weapon or, rolling weapon that you're in charge of, that, if you use it properly is going to be great. And you're going to have, driving privileges for the rest of your life. But if you do something stupid, not only can it, mess with your confidence level behind a wheel, but it can also affect your ability and your, the right to drive for long and so forth. Because it's a vehicle is something quite expensive, but also can be dangerous too. So
yeah, for sure. So driving, yeah. Maya, did you have your hand up? And then Tatiana. Oh, no, Maya. Okay, Tatiana, go.
Well, I think that and maybe Matt and Dan could talk about rite of passages specifically for men, but for women, I think that the transition from being a maid into a mother and into a crone those three are pretty important rite of passages, I think, and they still, even if they are not celebrated in all cultures, I think they are felt and lived through by every woman. And they are very, very important because they also come with certain societal expectations and fulfillment, and different women find more fulfillment in actually one of those three stages of their life, if you want. And I think lots of things are tied into that. Yeah. So
Well, I wonder, and this will go to well, everybody will throw the question open. So the idea of those three stages, do you think our society recognizes that sort of in some kind of way for women? I know, I guess giving birth moves you into one thing, but let's say you don't have children, and how does that all work, right? Because most of the people here, all of us except for Tatiana, haven't had children, and we may be choosing not to have children. Right, well, there we go. So everybody, all right. So the question is for you all, if as a woman, those are important markers, how do you feel about those markers if, let's say, you're not choosing to have children and you may or may not find a partner, get married, whatever, those other markers. So for the women on the panel, how are you responding to this ritual, this passage, this thing that you may not participate in, Suzanne?
So I read a poem or it was a Facebook meme, but it was from an Indigenous page that I follow. And it's like, we're no longer the children, we're now the aunties, and our mothers are the grandmothers, and so forth. And so I take it in terms of I'm one of the aunties now, and I will, be there for the kid who's scared to talk to their parents about something. I also am looking forward to cronehood. My mother actually studied cronehood for her master's degree and has like this whole 30-page document about what a crone is, a woman of age, wisdom, and power. You don't need to have kids to have age, wisdom, or power.
Mhm.
You just need to push and go for it. So I am fully looking forward to my 56th birthday and the third full moon after it, or whatever exactly the number is. But I got like 16 years to figure it out, to figure out what date I need to be ready. But like, I had a big crone birthday party for my mom when she turned 56. She ruined the surprise, but it was a big party for her. We bought like special bacon wrapped sirloin steaks, and then she went and booked a shift because she works as a nurse. So I was like, you can't have a shift, you need to come to your party. So anyway, it was a big thing, and I'm looking forward to it. But in the meantime, I'm happy to be the auntie who is maybe also a cat lady when she wants to be.
Nice. Maya.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Tatiana, for bringing this up, because I was too scared. I was too scared. I thought it was maybe too scandalous. Well, my version of a rite of passage is when I first started to bleed. My mother was had a little ritual, just us, gave me a gift, had a nice just private us ceremony, and it was really beautiful, and I hadn't heard of that before. It was always kind of shame soaked, don't talk about it, the same reason why I didn't want to bring it up right now, I guess. And I just thought that was really powerful and just a beautiful sentiment and ritual and moment in my life. And yeah, I guess the motherhood thing is very interesting. I'm also a proud auntie, and I also believe creation is a broad topic, and like you can create a lot of beautiful things in your life and be the portal for a lot of beautiful creations. And so I'm trying to like expand that in my head as someone in this society that really, you know, obviously, and for very good reason, values creation and having children in particular. Yeah, I'm in the process of recontextualizing that in my own life.
Well, there are lots of ways to create and to make, right? And to feel like you're participating and producing. You know, if we look at say, you know, the production of a child, you know, that's producing, but there are other productions. So, Ash.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a more like probably more hard ass stance on this than Suzanne and Maya's like very beautiful thought out like responses to that. But like, yeah, the whole idea that like, and I feel like it's ingrained in society that like a woman has to use her womb, that she like has to be a mother, that like, and I've heard it from many people that like I'm choosing to be child free. I don't ever want to have my own kids. But then I hear from people that like, I will never experience proper love because I will never have a child. Like these are things I've been told. And it's mind blowing to me that like, and I get it. Like, I mean, I don't get it. There's something happens with the rush of dopamine when you have a child. And then you're like, I'm going to take care of this thing because biologically these hormones have been like shoved into my brain so that I don't let this creature die, so that humanity continues. But like, there's this, for me, there's like sometimes there can be almost an audacity to it that I think that there's not a good enough ability to accept that like it's just not for some women. And like, even the idea that like postpartum depression is a huge thing, like babies in dumpsters is a huge thing. And yet, like, if I'm not having a child, I'm not experiencing like, there's a whole thing in life that I'm not experiencing. But it's like some women give birth and then they literally want to kill it. Like then their lives they're ruined. Like, so it's just, yeah. So the feeling that like I have that I'm going to miss a whole stage of my life. I'm just going to go straight from like child into like old lady it's just like, it just makes me want to like strangle society for being like, it's just like being, if you're gay and you're like, well, you're going to miss out on having children and blah, 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 you know, like if you don't adopt or whatever.
Like
so,
an incomplete thing.
Yeah. Like I'm like my life is somehow less complete. And so, and then that begs the question, like, well, okay, yeah, for you, and I'm not saying this to anybody in particular in general, just like for someone who's like, oh, well, you'll never experience love until you have a child. Well, it's like, how did you make that child? Were you just like in a light version of like with this person you decided to like make a child, like, and what are the parameters then around love? Like how are all these, how can we say that like this love is different from this love is different from this love? Like there's so many paintings. I was like, love is love, right? So the fact that like some women who are parents feel like they have to be like, well, you'll never experience real love if you just don't pop out a child. And I'm like, what about women who can't have children? Like,
right,
what about, yeah, women who are infertile who really would like to have a child and maybe they adopt, and then are you saying that their love is inferior to yours? Like, so there's just so many, I just hate that it's such a blanket statement that like woman must become mother. Like, and I know that's not what Tatiana's saying or anything, so I'm not saying that, but like that just the society feels that way. Like I joined a child-free, like respectfully child-free Facebook group, and just some of the things that people are posting in there, I'm like, this is mind-blowing. Like some women will be like, I came to work a little bit late and I got reamed out by my boss. And I was like, well, so-and-so comes in late all the time. And they're like, yeah, but she has a kid. And I was like, what? Like, how is that acceptable? It's like all of a sudden when you have a kid, your society gives you all this other leeway, and it's just, I think it just creates another barrier between people just being people. I don't know.
I think it's, you know what, Ash, everything that you said, I think it's just a great illustration of how society plays a lot of meanings on specific rites of passages, right? And I'm with you. I think that, and I'm looking at kind of maid, mother, crone from the perspective of Suzanne's mother, which she's been studying, right? Because it's like it's three faces of one goddess, right? Yeah. And I think that the motherhood, if you say it's not literally having your own biological child. It's when it's the time in the life of a woman when she is nurturing, right? And she could nurture, she could have cats and dogs, you know, and look after, don't have children of her own, but maybe look after a shelter for cats and dogs, you know, and that's nurturing energy goes there. Or look at you, at your beautiful puppets, right there. I bet lots of nurturing energy went into creating your avatars and painting your puppets. And I'm actually curious, how was it this year having your puppet side by side, which you created from scratch, replicating a little bit yourself in it, because I see resemblance. Yeah. So, yeah, but yeah, I see, and you know what, being a crone, I'm actually very close to being a crone, and I'm thinking a lot about this period I'm with Suzanne's mom and Suzanne. I'm looking forward to that time in my life. But being a crone in this society is not a celebrated time. It's not a celebrated or respected time, and that's just how it is, right? But it doesn't make that transition not happening for anyone, right? So that's why I'm just thinking that for those kind of transition, a lot of kind of inner reflection happens for people, but not necessarily a lot of societal rituals that are embedded in, except for huge wedding business and huge motherhood and, you know, all that consumer field hype about motherhood and weddings and marriage and all that stuff, that I agree leaves lots of people not feeling that they belong, right?
So is there kind of, so this will even go to Dan, when we're hearing this sort of the two males in the group that I haven't read whether I'm a something and then a something, then a something else, like an old limping fart or something when I'm a certain age. You know, I don't know. I'm past cronehood, that's for darn sure.
Jaquia's speech and as you like it.
What's that?
Jaquia's speech and as you like it.
Well, I'll have to look it up and pretend I'm literate.
Anyway. No, it's the 7 stages of man.
Oh, right. Yeah. I did that in university.
Stage.
Yeah. We're all players and blah, blah, blah. So Dan, when you look at sort of, they were talking quite eloquently about these, let's say 3 stages in the sense of being a female. I've got a question for you. So as a male, because they were sort of asking, do you have a sense of a passage that you have as a man in our society and what markers there are and whether or not, you know, you're feeling I've made these markers or they're important for me or they're not important or screw them or whatever, right?
Yeah, there's definitely the lineage draw. It's like the name must live on. The bloodline must continue. And but I was lucky in the sense I had 2 brothers, and one of them has 2 kids, the other one has another kid. So that took a lot of pressure off of me. And I'm like, it continues on. I don't have to worry about it, but mine ends at me, and that's cool. And so from there, yeah, my limited energy that I wanted to give can just be put towards, my niece and nephews, and rather than, and also kind of show them, yeah, you can live like how your parents can live and do what they do, but there's also like cool thing that Uncle Dan does too, and check that stuff out. But it's
So kind
I
of,
think trying too hard with these guys either way. I'm never cool.
so it's kind of the examples, but I'm also wondering if this has sort of wandered in, because I know that as a gay man, I have felt a lot of pressure from my generation to be this certain kind of a man, right, in the world, and I'm present in the world. And then I'm wondering this whole thing about nurturing, right? So men traditionally, and certainly more from my generation than from Dan's and your generation, you younger people, we had sort of this idea, well, we don't really nurture. This idea of nurturing is very feminine and all that sort of stuff. And there wasn't even really room for it or a balance for it. But I'm wondering if the flip side is for the women, if you're saying, look, we're pressured into thinking we have to be these great nurturing souls. And do we find a place where we just kind of get to be human, and there's kind of a medium ground? And I think one of the great conversations we're having right now in the world is around, the LGBTQ plus community is really pushing this idea of gender and identity and place in the world and how we are. And can't we all just get over ourselves and like loosen up and lighten up, right? So I don't know. I mean, we've danced quite wonderfully off the track of, sort of societal rites and rituals, but in a sense, this is the kind of rabbit hole that's very meaningful, right? Because we're talking about the stuff that moves us and is kind of important, So
culturally, this is, one of a big part of our rites and rituals.
Yes, of course. Well, yeah, no, and I'm glad. And the happy thing is that we're all very comfortable with each other because we work with each other, right? So the conversation is easy and it's not sort of awkward in that sense. But I'm watching the clock a little tiny bit and saying we're getting close to the end of our time. So as we go, or just before we go, can each of you, let's jump to a seasonal kind of a thing. So then you can talk about whether it's a winter solstice thing or a Christmas or whatever. Are there any kinds of traditions or rituals that tie it into a season that are really important to each of you? So I'm going to go through it alphabetically from the T's back down to the A. So we'll start with Tatiana, okay? So if there's kind of a ritual you can let us know about. Seasonal one.
So, well, I grew up in former Soviet Union in Russia, and it was a secular country, and the biggest celebration of the season was a New Year. So a New Year, a biggest celebration. But I have been living in Canada over 22 years now. So, and my approach to holidays right now, it's kind of pan-holiday approach. Like, I'm just happy whatever holidays there. I'm embracing it and going for it. But I am a secular person, so like religious holidays don't really mean a lot of meaning to me. So, but I was so excited and so happy that you included me in this conversation today, because winter solstice is one of my favorite times of the year, because I mean, this solstice is the only one solstice after which things are getting better. the day is gonna get longer, we are gonna get more light, we are gonna have warmer temperatures. I know the changes will be very incremental and we won't see them till the end of January, but even just the thought of it really helps me goes through the winter, and it is a very magical time. And my own ritual is to have some time to reflect on the year before, and think about it. And one of the magical rituals is to get my favorite book of the year, and on the solstice night, just open it on the random page and put my finger on and read that sentence, and that sentence kind of tells me how the year ahead is gonna look for me. So that's my little ritual. I feel the universe is talking to me through that random thing. So
It's a bit like augury.
yeah.
Boom, there you go, the I Ching and whatever, all that stuff. We do as a species, it's like we tie ourselves to this excuse for some kind of sense of magic, some sense of wonder, whatever it is, because we live in such a calculating world, and we've talked about consumerism and a forceful world, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but that's cool. Okay, Suzanne.
Well, so I do come from a Christian tradition, and for me, I have stepped away from the actual structures of a fixed religion, but I definitely still love singing the Christmas carols. Oh Holy Night is still one of my favorite songs ever to sing, and I don't care that it's that it's religious. I want to sing it. So I for many years did sing for the Christmas Mass and with the choir at church and so forth, and yeah, so this year's I haven't sung it yet, so we got to work on that. But for me, like solstice, I am looking forward to solstice, and I've even found some Facebook memes today. I do have actual work on Facebook, so it's not that I just sit there scrolling all day long.
Sure.
I have a job and and so there was some talk about the mother night being the figure as opposed to Father Christmas and so forth, and the reindeer is actually a female, and this is Steve-O, who's being very calm and very happy to be in my arms. So there's a lot of cuddling of kittens that happens. That's what I nurture. But yeah, for me, the holiday ritual I think that is most particular is actually decorating my tree. And this year I had to do that very differently because I have like a 3-foot tree instead of a 6-foot tree. And I couldn't have anything breakable on it because it's only 3 feet and my cats will tip it over. So it was, having to be very selective about which ornaments I put on. And also I have a student, international student from Mexico right now. So I kind of wanted to pick more traditional items than some of the character. Well, okay, I do have all my Frozen characters on the tree, but still other, but name recognition for her. But yeah, so but a lot of those ornaments I made over my lifetime too, or I picked out specifically to be gifts or to represent somebody or something. Like this feather here is a representation of my stepfather who passed about 4 years ago, because feathers were part of his passing, and it was actually his final joke. And so when we see feathers, that's sort of our communication with him. So that's the sort of special time, but it's something that I do by myself because nobody can do it like I want it done. So right. It's definitely a ritual, almost a methodical, meditative sort of experience to put them up and then to take them down and pack them away safely and so forth too. So
nice. It's kind of like maybe our deep dark past we go back to, in a sense, as you say, the whole Holy Night, and that reminder of that time when you were around the religion and Christianity and stuff, and then moved away, but then that still tugs and pulls at you. Maya?
I have grown up doing a loosely Christian kind of Christmas thing. And it's gotten looser and looser as time passes. And I've introduced more celebrations and rituals into it. Tonight, right now, basically, I'll be heading to a fire for Yule and the winter solstice. Very beautiful ceremony and kind of new to it. But it feels really grounded in me and my own heart, and it makes a lot of sense to me to celebrate today and join with a small group of people outside to celebrate today.
Nice.
So
No,
yeah,
that's
looking forward
beautiful.
to that.
Yeah, cool. Dan?
I guess with the ritual of seasons changing is putting away the my bulky clothes, and in doing so, just going through my clothes that I don't wear and getting rid of my old clothes. And in a sense, I'm kind of molting and, you know, making room for the new thing I got or the thing I like wearing lots, and actually saying, oh, I never wear this thing at all and it should be donated. But again, like the suitcase, it's in a bag in a corner in my place, ready to be donated.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like the symbology of it. And it seems like each of us so far, I mean, we haven't got Dash yet. I'm sure it's going to be similar, but there's that theme of reflection, meditation, evaluation, reevaluation, stopping to take a check, like check in with yourself or whatever, right? Yeah, cool. I love that. Ash?
Yeah, I don't think I really have any like particular this time of year rituals for myself. Like my birthday is on the 30th. So I more kind of care about like doing something fun on my birthday instead. And yeah, but like there was this, I guess, yeah, my household was, we didn't really have any religion, even though my grandpa was Catholic and my family all believes in God except for me. But like, I don't remember when it started, but just one Christmas, my mom for breakfast, like she bought like, what are those, like egg McMuffin, the McMuffin-y part, the little bread thing. And she bought like sausages and she made us all egg McMuffins for breakfast. And we like, I know McMuffins, egg muffin things. And we all like loved it so much. We were like, that was the best breakfast ever. And it wasn't even like since I was a baby. It was just some random year in the middle of like being a child. And then ever since that year, we were like, it's just become a tradition that we do like a Christmas breakfast like that with that exact food. And it's a bit different for me now that I'm vegetarian. I don't have the like sausage patty anymore, but it's still like nice. And even now, like my family is like, when are you going to come home for Christmas? I'm like, oh, how about Boxing Day? They're like, yeah, that will work. Like, because my brother, and they go to his family and so on and so forth. So even now they're like, come at 11 and we'll have egg McMuffins. I'm like, yeah. So that's like become more of a thing than like the traditional like turkey dinner or whatever. It's that like breakfast kind of, and then we all unpack our stockings. And yeah, but one thing that I actually really do like doing is I like watching like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's my favorite Christmas movie, but I haven't done it for like several years. And every time I go home to my parents, I'm like, oh my God, let's put Rudolph on. And it's never on. And maybe it's because they're like in the boonies and they have, yeah, I should get it on DVD, but yeah, but they just have satellite or whatever. They don't have a streaming service. So you kind of just have to roll with what's on the satellite at the time. So usually it's like Elf. And I know lots of people like that movie. I don't, but like Elf and like the live action Grinch. And I'm like, I want to watch these like old school cartoons. Like give me some Charlie Brown Christmas. some old school Grinch, and some Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and I'm set.
Cool. Well, what I'm loving hearing is all of these heartfelt, really meaningful little rituals, right? How we take our lives and mark them in our own ways, huh? Little tiny things or massive things. Not everybody's out doing huge, giant, whatever. So usually at this time of our session, I'm saying, well, thanks a lot and see you next month. But now I'm not going to say there is no next month. I mean, I hope there's a next month on the planet, but there's no next month for us with you in our 10 community conversations. So on behalf of the Red Deer Puppetry Collective, yay!
Yeah!
Yay!
Yeah.
And the Red Deer, what?
If I may add, Matt, I know this is the last community conversation, but we do have all community conversations saved in our virtual archive. So I will add the link to the virtual archive of community conversations under today's conversation. And so they are open. They are recorded. People can keep watching it, and I hope they will keep watching it. And it was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to
Thank
you.
you.
So, yeah, I was just sort of saying that, yes, of course, go and look us up on the Red Deer Public Library site, because the conversations are now recorded for eternity. And yikes, I don't know what that means, but anyway, it's been a great pleasure meeting all these members of the community, working with you folks at the Puppetry Collective, and of course, Tatiana at the library, that once a month ritual with all of us. So I say yippee-ki-yay, and happy solstice, happy holidays to everybody. And let's hope 2022 becomes lighter, brighter, and sweeter, huh?